Reppin' Philly ain't a choice. It's a way of life. PhillyGoat.com is your one-stop shop for Philly pride. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Look fresh, stay Philly, Philly Goat. Go Birds. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for January 28th, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy hump day to everyone out there. Let's get right into it. That's more like it. Sixers Bucks last night, much better. I know they were playing the other night without Joe and PG. I know it was a 3 p.m. tip, but this is how this team could be. 139-122 over the Bucks. Our old pal Doc Rivers, Glenn, was in the house last night. But Sixers, this was all Sixers from the start. Did not watch the whole game. Fell asleep. It's been an exhausting few weeks. But Paul George led the way with 32. Joe added 29. Tyrese Maxey with 22. And more importantly, Jared McCain seems to be finally getting back to where we all expected him to be. 17 points, 5 for 6 from three-point range for Jared. So this is the Sixers team. We're going to see a lot of inconsistencies with this team this year because of the load management with Paul George and Joel. But this was more like it. So good win for them over an Eastern Conference team. 139-122. And it's always good to beat our old pal Glenn. Good old Glenn. But Sixers, with the win last night, they play tomorrow down at the X against the Sacramento Kings. Flyers are in Columbus tonight. Hopefully, they play better than they did. Rick Tocchet, to his credit, did take the blame for the loss the other day against the Islanders. However, I think that was code for I'm going to get in these guys' asses because they played like absolute crap. And even the players were saying, no effort, this, that, the other. So maybe we can chalk that one up to the weather. But Flyers back in action tonight, looking to get back on the winning side of things. And then a couple interesting stories from both the Eagles and the Sixers, or Phillies. First, with the Eagles, LaShawn McCoy, shady, said he feels that the OC search, some of these guys are dropping out due to the fans and the media. I don't know. I mean, are guys really going to turn down a job? I mean, we'll see. There might be something to that. I know I get on the media a lot. I know as fans, I think we can be pretty ridiculous sometimes with our takes, but for somebody not to take that job, maybe because of the egg incident. So thanks to those jerk people in New Jersey who did that. If that is the case, good job, guys. But I think there's more to it than that. And I personally just kind of piecing everything together. This is based on absolutely nothing. I think it's a combination. Do I think the fans and the media are playing a role with some of these guys turning down the job? Sure. I think players sometimes don't sign here because of that. And I think we've seen it. Our heroes, the guys that we worship, the guys that we love, they're a different kind of person, like a Brian Dawkins type person. So even Bryce Harper to a certain extent. Yeah, it plays a role. But I think you're going to see the media scrutiny, whether you're in Boston, New York, Philly. So I think it's more of a Northeast thing. I do think some of it is from the Eagles organization. The fact if the rumors and what we talked about the other day are true, that they're dead set on keeping some of the guys on the coaching staff, specifically letting Jeff Stoutland be the run game coordinator, I think that's on them. And I think part of it stems from the whole Chip Kelly experience, giving too much power. You got to get over that, guys. You have to absolutely get over it. I do feel that some of this, and this is going to be the most critical season of his career, I think some of it could be on the quarterback. And a lot of times we're hearing conflicting things from what he says. He'll say, in one respect, he embraces challenge. He wants to grow. You either win or you learn. And then in the next breath, he's saying the offense is going to look how I want it to look. So, again, I don't know if that – I think it's a perfect storm of everything. I also think some of those guys like Dable – was like, okay, I want to, flat out said, I want to coach Malik Willis. Okay. Good challenge for him. As somebody who's currently in an interview process, I get it. Sometimes you just want to be challenged. So maybe for him, going and starting from scratch is better than going into a ready-made situation. Maybe some of these younger guys, they're looking to pad their resume. I don't know what the situation is, but I think for Shady to say that, I wouldn't blame it 100% on the fans and media, but more interviews are coming, so hopefully we have a resolution. Did not think this was going to drag out. I do think now that Buffalo hired Joe Brady, that was sort of the first big domino to fall, so I think guys are going to start going in, unless there's somebody that they're looking for on either the Seahawks or the Patriots staff to interview. I don't know. I mean, but I feel as though this would be the week that would come out, because they allow the way the NFL, which is stupid, but the way the NFL allows the rules, you can interview the week of the Super Bowl. I still think everything should start at the end of the season, but hey, what do I know? And then the Phillies news was, a lot of people were upset yesterday. I was doing a lot of driving, so I was listening to WIP a lot about the Phillies not re-signing Harrison Bader. And I get part of the argument. I get that for what he made over 2 years, I think it was 2 years, $25 million with the Giants, you could have afforded that. And I don't disagree. And I would rather see some sort of outfield combination of Marsh, Bader, and Crawford, but you have Ordolis Garcia. So it's a high risk, high reward signing. But I think he brings something different to the table than what Bader does. And it's only a 1-year deal. But to sign both Garcia and Bader, I wouldn't have done that, because again, if you're going to go with the youth movement, I mentioned this yesterday, you got to let these guys take their lumps and grow from it, and to see what you got. Because truthfully, we saw it with Don Brown. He had that great, we couldn't call him up because there was no room for him. And then once he got called up, he had a hot 6-week stretch and then did nothing the rest of his career. So you have to see it. And while these guys are still young, don't make the same mistake you did with some of these other guys. We hear all the time, and for the people that are upset, we hear all the time, oh, well, why don't we call these guys up? They're calling these guys up. Yes, Harrison Bader was a cool addition to the team last year. He brought some swag. I like him. I like the way he played. I liked his style. But you can't have it both ways. And we'll see what happens. I almost feel like this is a transition year for the Phillies. So I don't know. That's sort of my take. I would love to know your take on both the OC search as well as Harrison Bader. 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. But again, I'm fine with it. I think you got to let these young guys play and see what you have. And listen, for years, we're always saying, call the young guys up. We've been talking about calling Crawford up for 2 years now. Here he is. And I saw him play in Reading or Lehigh Valley last year, and I think I talked about it on this podcast. He was far and away the best player on the field. We'll see what happens with ground ball rates and things like that, but what better way to learn how to play in the major leagues than playing in the major leagues? I know, it's a crazy thought. Crazy. All right, yesterday's trivia question, our pal Ben Simmons, the Ben Simmons experience. I asked, how many triple doubles did he have in his career in the regular season and how many in the postseason? This number absolutely shocked me. Ben Simmons had 33 career triple doubles in the regular season. And even more surprising, based on how it all ended for Ben, he did have 3 in the postseason. So there's your shocking trivia fact of the day. Ben Simmons, 36 total career triple doubles. And that's good enough for top 15 in the NBA history. So I'll stand by my original thought on this. What a waste of talent this dude was. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. It's been a slow burn. I like the direction we're heading, so thank you for that. And then working with Kyle this week to figure out our exact recording schedule for the Super Bowl edition of the Brotherly Birds Breakdown. So stay tuned for that, but that is also available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube.
Hey guys, guess what time it is? It's cookie season. I'm Ella here, your favorite Girl Scout, and we have your oldies but goodies. Lemonades, dimmits, peanut butter sandwiches, and more. This year we have a new cookie flavor called the Explore Mug. My goal is 200 boxes, so please make that happen. You're going to buy cookies anyway, so why not buy them from me?
All right, January 28th. First and foremost, I want to wish a happy 40th birthday to my young baby cousin, John. Hope you have a good day. Welcome to the 40 Club, and go Birds. But first, we're going to go all the way back to 1901. And happy birthday, American League. I know this is a Philly sports podcast. I know no Philly teams play in the American League. However, the old Athletics originated in Philadelphia, and they were one of the original 8 teams in the American League. So they're still around today. So happy birthday, American League. You hardly look a day over 110. But that does lead us to today's trivia question. There were 8 original teams in the American League. 7 of them are still in existence today. Who are they? And I will give you credit for this from what they are today or what their original team and location was. So lots of movement in there, but 7 of the 8 original teams from the American League are still in existence today. Who are they? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line or the Discord channel, which the link is in the description right below Ella's Girl Scout link. So go click on that link. Buy the cookies. Buy them. All right, fast forward all the way to 1958. And in the 21st round, with the 244th overall pick, the Eagles selected an offensive tackle out of Cal Poly with their draft pick. That draft pick's name, John Madden. Yes, that John Madden. Before he was a Super Bowl winning coach, before he was in the Hall of Fame, before he was one of the major announcers and best announcers in NFL history, before the video games, he actually was a football player. He was drafted by the Eagles before his senior season at Cal Poly. Played that season, but unfortunately for John, his career ended before it even started. He tore his knee in training camp in 1959, which led him to get into coaching, which essentially led us to the John Madden that we know and love today. So yes, kids, the video game guy was a real person. He was a football player. He was an NFL coach. He was an announcer. He was one of the best at all of those things. He also was drafted by our Philadelphia Eagles in 1958 in the 21st round out of Cal Poly. And they don't make them like John Madden anymore. And back when Pro Bowls and all of that meant something, John was the first guy to come out and do his all Madden team. And for me as a kid, I always took and put more stock in what John Madden said. So to me, making an all Madden team meant more than making the Pro Bowl. And now the Pro Bowl is an absolute joke when you have Shedeur Sanders, who played in like 6 games, had more interceptions than touchdowns, being named a Pro Bowler. Nobody takes it serious anymore, but John Madden did. And on this day in 1958, he was drafted by the Eagles in the 21st round, 244 overall. Could you imagine a 20-round draft or a 20-plus round draft today? Be like a month. Anyway, fast forward to 1974, and we've talked a lot about this guy this month, but it was Super Fight 2. Phillies' own Joe Frazier took on Muhammad Ali at Madison Square Garden in a rematch of their first fight, in which Joe Frazier won by unanimous decision. This time, it was all Ali, winning a 12-round unanimous decision, setting up the rubber match 1 year later, the Thriller in Manila. But on this day, it was Super Fight 2. Ali Frazier up at Madison Square Garden. Muhammad Ali beating Joe Frazier in 12 rounds by a unanimous decision. These guys beat the crap out of each other. Literally beat the crap for 3 fights. So it's now even 1-1. Thriller in Manila coming up later this year. All right, and then fast forward even more to 2004. Temple beat St. Bonaventure 76-57 at the Liacouras Center. David Hawkins led the Owls with 21 points in what was John Chaney's 700th career win. John Chaney, what can I say about him? I mean, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame person. Just met him numerous times while at Temple's campus, while golfing at Walnut Lane. Always approachable, always spoke with me. And just a great person. Still miss him to this day. 741 total wins for his career at both Temple and Chaney State at the time, winning the Division II National Championship before coming to Temple. But just a great guy. Won his 700th game as head coach on this day in 2004 as Temple beat St. Bonnie's 76-57. And then in 2008, Phillies make a move that would pay off dividends later that October. They signed Pedro Feliz to a 2-year, $8.5 million contract. And Pedro was an underrated piece of that 2008 Phillies championship team. Provided some solid third base defensively. Had some timely hitting, including knocking in the game-winning run in Game 5, Part 2 of the World Series to give the Phillies their first World Series championship since 1980. But Pedro came to the Phillies on this day in 2008. And it is Wednesday. That means it's time for What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to Lotwin.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10%. Not Jim Montgomery. TCCPOD to take 10% off your order. Get your 3D custom hype chain from Lotwin. These things are awesome. So go to Lotwin.com. Promo code TCCPOD to take 10% off of your order. All right, so we just talked about John Chaney's 700th win. Unfortunately, tomorrow is also the anniversary of his passing. So one of the biggest what-ifs in John Chaney's career, what if he had made a Final Four? He made it to the Elite Eight 5 times. He went in as the number 1 overall seed in 1988. In the 2000 NCAA tournament, that team was very good as a 2 seed that lost to Seton Hall. He put together some great teams, but would making a Final Four change his legacy? 100% absolutely it would. Now, I think his legacy is cemented in stone. Like, nobody's going to take away what John Chaney did as far as teaching, growing growing his players into young men. Just what he meant to that school, what he meant to somebody like me who didn't play basketball and only knew him from working at the SAC, and he would come in, talk to us and everything. So nothing, like, his legacy is fine. It just would have taken it to another level. And I mean, I think it just further solidifies it. And it's a damn shame that he did not make it to a Final Four. Obviously selfishly for me, I remember watching all 5 of the Elite Eight games that they lost, 2 of them in person. So yes, selfishly as a fan, it would have meant a lot. But I think it would have been kind of the cherry on top of a great career. I certainly think it changes the trajectory of Temple, maybe they don't go Fran Dunphy after Chaney leaves, and maybe they get a more nationally recognized coach, because this is before NIL, so they would have had an opportunity to do that. Maybe it raises the stock of the A10 when UMass went to the Final Four, even though they were vacated. It really made the A10, rose it to national prominence. Sure, John Chaney had a hand in that as well. Does it change Philly hoops? If Temple does make it to at least one Final Four under John Chaney, does Temple take over the Villanova spot as the top team in the city? You never know, but maybe he gets TV gigs out of it. Maybe he doesn't hang on later in his career the way he did. Maybe he pulls a Bobby Knight and gets some ESPN gigs. He was always great on Comcast Sportsnet when he was on Daily News Live with those guys. So, I mean, would have loved to hear his takes on the national perspective, or his takes on what was happening nationally in college basketball. But I don't think going to a Final Four changes who he was, who he stood for, and what he meant to all of those players he had, all of the people he's come into contact with over the years. It just, like I said, I think it's the cherry on top. But unfortunately for John, never got there. Had lots of good chances, and just always, his teams were always overachieving too. So it's not like he got there and choked. The 88 team was his best team that he took, and they lost to a very damn good Duke team. So I don't think it was a situation of where he choked. I think it was just he had guys playing above their heads, and once you get to that level, it's hard. And he had a couple of chances in some of those. They weren't all blowouts either. So let me know your thoughts on John Chaney. I think he's one of those guys who in recent years we haven't talked a lot about, due to the fact, obviously, he's not here, but just with the landscape and everything. But what are your thoughts on John Chaney? And then finally today, the Turning the Page event that changed Philly sports forever was when Doug Peterson put Jalen Hurts in at starting quarterback, replacing Carson Wentz. And yes, it was Doug Peterson's decision. However, from an organizational standpoint, they did support it because he did start the rest of the season. And it showed that the Eagles were prepared and able to turn the page, even if it was a tough decision financially, and move on. And I think kind of showed and proved who Carson Wentz was as a person. I don't think he ever recovered fully from that knee injury. And then added with the fact that Nick Foles won the Super Bowl with his team, it should have been his glory. I don't think he ever recovered from that. And it also showed that the Eagles were willing to protect the future versus their investment. It was not an easy move to start a second-round rookie over a guy you were paying a lot of money to. But I think from a bigger picture, it was not just the quarterback, but the decisions in general. Like, showed that they held people accountable. So I think that's what we're going to see a lot of this year. I think it plays well into what happens here with the offensive coordinator search. I think Jalen and Nick both seats are getting a little bit warmer for next year, but the Eagles have showed that they're able to move on and learn from mistakes. And it also showed that they're at the end of the day, their loyalty is to making the team better and making the team win, and not specific guys, which I think in this day and age, with the way the players don't have loyalty, you have to respect that somewhat. So Jalen Hurts taking over as the starter not only turned the page from a franchise perspective, but also from a team perspective, because just 2 short years later, they were in the Super Bowl, and then 4 short years later, they were winning a Super Bowl. So a good decision by Dougie P to start Jalen Hurts over Carson Wentz in 2020 that would eventually lead us to winning a Super Bowl. All right, be sure to let me know your thoughts on John Chaney as well as Harrison Bader and the Eagles' offensive coordinator search. On this day in 2008, Philly signed Pedro Feliz, who started at third base for the world effing champions. 2004, John Chaney gets his 700th win in a win at the Liacouras Center over St. Bonnie's. Super Fight 2 was on this day in 1974. Ali Frazier, with Ali beating Phillies' own Joe Frazier by a 12-round unanimous decision. Eagles drafted John Madden. Yes, that John Madden on this day in 1958. And happy birthday, American League. In 1901, the American League was born. 7 of the 8 teams are still there, including the soon-to-be Las Vegas Athletics, who got their start in Philly. We'll have more on the OC coach or OC search, as well as the Flyers game tomorrow. Hopefully we get something soon. Guys are coming in for second interviews, so hopefully that means they're getting closer to a decision anyway. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 28th, 2026. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.